Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Red Sea podcast. This is the FAB4 Brentford preview show. I am joined by Thiago's father, Courtney Barker, and PK from the Red Sea Down Under. Let's get on with the show.
Tell the world we are Liverpool, champions of England.
We've conquered all of Europe. We're never gonna stop. From Palestine to Turkey, we've won the fucking lot. Got Paisley and the Shankly, the fields of Anfield Road. We are all supporters, and we come from Liverpool.
So here we are, guys. Evening for three of us. Very early morning to you, PK. How are we doing, everybody?
Good.
Yeah, good. Excellent.
Knackered. I'm not actually out this weekend, which makes a change. It's quiet.
Tricky now. She ain't hitting the top.
Well,
Have you got a
hopefully you'll be
temperature?
out after the result this weekend. I'll have something to celebrate. Maybe we'll be top of the league after Chelsea's quite tricky fixture this weekend. So this is a big chance, I think, for us to really make a claim and go clear. What do you guys think, James?
Yeah, I think it's going to be an absolutely resounding victory for Liverpool. But before we go any further,
He's here already. He's not waiting about, is he?
Because he's had a couple, isn't he? Before we get into
He's been on it since 11.
Before we get into any pleasantries, we have a small, little bit of housekeeping to do. It is our very own SMS, Statman Stubbs. It's his birthday. And on the Red Sea podcast, when it is one of our birthdays, we all sing to each other. So, on the count of three. 1, 2, 3.
Happy birthday to you.
Happy
birthday
to
you.
Happy
birthday to
Statman
Stubbs.
Happy
birthday to
you.
And
many more.
I hope you're having a good day, Statman. We miss you. I've had to put the head-to-heads to me today. That's normally the first place where we start, isn't it? So me and Courtney were having a little chat about it before you guys decided to join about 30 seconds before we went live. Nice and cool. But no, there's not too much to get into, really. I was just kind of going through it with Courtney, as I said. But we haven't played them since 1989. We beat them 4-0 in the FA Cup. So not much recent history. 1989. That's a special year in this house, isn't it?
That's a great vintage. That is a great vintage. The year I was born.
I wasn't even born that year. There you go.
No, it was I. Not till the year after for me.
Oh, you're making me feel old, guys. Steady on.
Oh dear. But no, other than that, we've had. Oh, sorry, go on, PK.
I'll say now that Statman's on the show. Yeah, he's the grandfather, isn't he?
He is. He's on the spirits now. He's absolutely flying. I think. Yeah.
Yeah, you can tell he's wasted.
The comments are coming to fly in, aren't they?
He's going to be on it, isn't he? But other than that, the last time we actually played them in a league game was before the Premier League. It obviously existed back in the old Division 1. That was a 1-1 draw in 1947. So without making it too much of a boring start, yeah, well, the last 4 times we've played them have been all in the Cups and we've won all 4. Head-to-head record has been 9 wins for Liverpool, 3 draws and 3 losses. So not really any recent history at all. So I'll start with you, PK. Obviously, Brentford, new to the Premier League this season. Started pretty well, but never really had a match with Liverpool that we can kind of compare it to. So is it like an unknown quantity going in, or do you think they've done their homework and know what to expect?
I'm actually super excited for this game. I think because when we did our kind of research for our show on Brentford, they play 3-5-2, similar to Chelsea in defence, and they put with a back 5 similar to Chelsea in defence, and they kind of have like this free rotating kind of go as you think kind of feel, go forward kind of thing, and they play without fear, and the way they do it, it's actually really good to watch. Like that game versus Brighton, I think it was one of the best footballing games I've seen in the Premier League for a long, long time. And if you think about who was playing who, you would never expect that. So I'm actually really looking forward to this game.
No, absolutely. I mean, I was looking at it, Courtney. They remind me a little bit of Sheffield United, the year they came up and just took everybody by surprise. Again, like PK says, the back five, which can transition as well. What are you expecting from them? Do you think backs against the wall, or do you think they're really going to go for it? Because they've only let 2 goals in so far.
I think they're going to go for it. I think they are quite an attacking team, as they are. I think when they was in the Championship, they scored like 33 goals or something like that. Ivan Toney did. Like he had a great season. I think he won the record for the most goals scored in a season in the Championship.
You're right.
So I do think they are going to go for it. I think they are very attacking side in that sense. So I don't think they're just going to park the bus, because they'll know that they are the underdogs, but I think they might try and fancy their chances, because you never know on the day. So it's down to the players, isn't it?
No, definitely. And James, I've been kind of studying the last few seasons of the Premier League, and it always seems to be, to me, that the team that wins the Championship that's most suited to that league tends to struggle the most in the Prem. And we've seen teams that win the playoffs, Aston Villa and Brentford, actually probably do better than the 2 that went up automatically. And again, this year, it's followed a similar pattern. I mean, some of the results, obviously beating Arsenal on the first day was, the opening game of the season, and everybody was watching that. But they've got a win away at Wolves as well. Couple of draws with Palace and Villa on the road, and one disappointing black mark, that the loss at home to Brighton. But do you think they're going to be sort of safe, and this kind of way of attacking games is actually going to do them good, rather than just trying to park the bus like Courtney said they probably aren't going to do, and try and cling on like a Norwich?
There's a long way to go. Let's be very, very clear. I mean, teams that come up from the Championship, whether they finish as the winners or where they go through the playoffs, they are normally the teams which are obviously, they're in between that Premier League standard and that Championship standard. They're almost too good for that league, but almost not quite good enough for the Premier League, because the step up in class is huge. Yeah, it's massive. The gulf is massive. But with Brentford, they have something a little bit different in Ivan Toney. You've got a player which has played right throughout the football pyramid. Yeah. Northampton, got a move to Newcastle, didn't work out for him there. Went back down the football pyramid to Peterborough. From Peterborough, he absolutely slayed it at Peterborough. Like, they think so highly of him in terms of his time at Peterborough, which was fantastic. And then backed himself enough to actually go into the Championship with Brentford, replacing Ollie Watkins. And Ollie Watkins has been great since he came to Villa. He's been a revelation for them as well. So he had big shoes to fill in terms of that move to Brentford. But top goal scorer in the Championship last year, 33 goals. Yeah, that's absolutely fantastic in a league which is competitive. And then he goes again and backs his ability to do it in the Premier League, and he's doing it. I don't personally think he's going to go out and score 33 goals in the Premier League. But if he turns in 15 goals this year, which I think he's quite well capable of doing, that's fantastic. Also, knowing people that know him, he works hard. Like, he's works super hard on his game. He's a talented individual, but when talent meets hard work as well, you've got a special player. And that's where I feel with Brentford, they've got that little feather in their cap in Ivan Toney. He's the man that makes them tick. They've also got what's the defender that
Jensen.
Yeah, he's decent. He's got some experience also, which is good. So they've got a nice mix, and I like their goalkeeper as well.
He's a good fantasy league pick this year, isn't he, old Raya?
Is it Raya? Yeah, he was linked with a move to Arsenal the year when they obviously in the summer when they got promoted, and the year before as well, he was linked with Arsenal. Very, very good with his feet, can play out, good shot stopper as well, got a commanding presence as a goalkeeper also. So they've got a decent spine in their team that makes me think that they can stay up. And one of our very own, Sergi Canales, plying his trade at Brentford as well, which is nice to see. And he popped up with a goal this year also. So they've got some decent parts to their team.
No, I agree. I mean, what interests me, Pete, is, you look at Brentford, they've been a really strong Championship side for probably 2-3 years, and just missed out a couple of times. But, they've had to move on the likes of Watkins, Ben Rama, Malpe. but they always seem to find that next gem, don't they? They've done such a good kind of model of that. How do you think they kind of keep doing that? How do they kind of lose their best players yet bring in someone just as good for, a tiny percentage of the price? It's a good model.
I think I was doing some reading on them earlier because they literally, I just don't know anything about them. And then, so they do have this money ball philosophy. So similar to, the way Michael Edwards likes to operate, where he finds, that we have our, database and how we find our players. They have their own. So and even the manager came out recently and just said, I'm a selling club. We're a selling club, and we make these players as they are to sell them. And then he started pumping up one of his own players to be a Fabinho replacement or Fabinho kind of style player. So he's already trying to put his players on the market.
Yeah.
But I guess that's just the way they are. And like as James was talking about Tony, he also reminds me of like prime Adebayor, like that kind of style, like a very Adebayor kind of player.
Yeah.
And I can see the similarities in that as well. And I think if I'll be so surprised if he's with them next season. I think he's going to be the one that's sold first. Even his partner up front, I can't even remember how to pronounce his name, but even the two up front, I wouldn't be surprised if both of them end up getting sold. So the way they recruit, the way they are as a club, it seems like they're in a really, really good place. Absolutely.
I mean, Courtney, obviously, we've said players have left Brentford. They had Dean Smith at Aston Villa, who was a Villa fan as well. He moved on. And now, obviously, Thomas Frank is at the helm. What have you made of him? Obviously, his first season as manager, they got promoted with him in the full-time role. And have you been impressed with him and his tactics? Because, like you say, you look at the start that Brentford have made. It's very impressive. They're sitting 9th with 8 points already, 2 points clear of Arsenal.
Yeah, I mean, they are doing really well. And I think as going forward, it's a case of can they build that momentum going forward? Because we are early on into the season, so it's really hard to say at the minute. But depending on like some of the wins that they've been getting, like was it Arsenal they beat the first game of the season? Yeah. That's a good, well, say a good win, but at the minute
it's not hard, is it? It's not hard.
Not that great.
It's not hard, is it?
It's just that loss to Brighton, but yeah, they have been doing well. It's just a case of can they maintain it? Injuries, Ivan Toney, if he gets injured, what they're gonna do?
No, it's true. I mean, the teams that get promoted, they tend to have one or two star players, don't they? And when they're not performing or when they're missing for a few games, we saw Aston Villa last season flying high in 4th and 5th, and Grealish ended up missing a couple of months, and suddenly they found themselves in mid-table. So a lot of these teams that are still fairly new to the Premier League do rely on one or two special players. But I mean, James, one thing I wanted to kind of get to you. I know they've got the win against Arsenal, but realistically, I think Brentford are going to be looking at teams in and around them, aren't they? Really, to pick the points up that they need. The likes of Newcastle and Norwich and Watford, Burnley, those kind of games. But looking at the games coming up, obviously, if you think if they get anything tomorrow evening, it's a bonus, because you look at the fixtures after that: away to West Ham, home to Chelsea, and at home to Leicester. So a really tricky run coming up for Brentford. So do they take tomorrow as a free hit, or are they really, really going to go for it, knowing that they've got just as tough fixtures coming up as well?
I think with those teams, they've got to go for it. They've got to go for it. They can't expect, or if you're a Brentford supporter, that place is going to be packed. It's going to be rocking. Yeah, it's not a huge stadium. I think it only seats like 30,000. So it's not massive. So they're going to look to create an atmosphere. I think it's like 25, 27,000. So they're going to look to create
nice
an
and new.
Yeah, pardon?
It's nice and new and shiny.
Yeah, bright, nice, brand new, shiny. It's lovely. So they're going to look to create an atmosphere. So they're going to come out and play. Of course they are. You're going to want to die by your sword, aren't you? Surely. And there's going to be no shame in taking a 2-3-0, whatever 4-0 pumping off Liverpool. If you're Burnley, there's no shame. There's no shame in. Oh, sorry, if you're Brentford, there's no shame in that. There is no shame in that at all, because ultimately they're the underdogs. But they could come and play some football, and like we saw when we played Villa we don't necessarily want to relive it,
Oh,
but
fuck.
we took a pumping. We were
Yeah.
expected to walk in there and it'd be a walk in the park, and we held some serious smoke. Yeah, let's be honest. Do you know what I mean? They found the form of their lives, and Burnley are going to go into that game thinking this is a cup final. So this is a cup final. Going up against West Ham will be like a cup final. City will be a cup final. Leicester will be a cup final. These players are just having the time of their lives. Most of them, when they started their careers, how many of those players ever anticipated that they'd ever be playing Premier League football?
It's a fair point.
Yeah, they're going to enjoy every single minute. So I expect them to be up for it. I expect them to play their game. I expect them to pass the ball. They like to build up, and they like to play through the lines as well. So I expect them to do that as well. So I don't think it's going to be easy for us. I don't think it's going to be easy.
No, I agree. I mean, Pete, I'm looking at the video that you guys do, the training ground, how to beat Brentford. It was really, really good. Give us a little insight into that, because, Courtney and James have said that Brentford are going to go for it. But, again, they've only let in 2 goals in 5 Premier League games. So they've kept it really tight. That they're not a team like Leeds that are going to just win 4-2. There's only been 2 goals on average in all their games, other than the 0-0. So I see a tighter game. What about yourself?
I predicted 2-0 on that show, but I predicted a 2-0 that is extremely difficult. So similar to Jurgen Klopp spoke about the Palace game. He goes, the scoreline said 3-0, but it was extremely difficult. I think we're going to have a similar kind of match, but it'll be 2-0. I think, look, they've played, again, I think the best team they've played is Brighton in terms of football style and in terms of form and everything else, because Brighton are flying at the moment as well. Yeah. And they lost the game, and they should have lost by more than 1-0. And the way that Brighton kind of hurt them was through like close interchange play, like third man runs and 1-2s at the edge of the box and all that kind of stuff, midfield runs. So you look at stuff like that. So against Aston Villa, they were Aston Villa threatened from set pieces. Wolves threatened from the width. And I think Wolves were unlucky in that game. I don't know if you watched that game, but I mean, if Traore was able to land one of his crosses, it could have been 4-5-0 in the first half. So I think if you look at that, our width is our strength, obviously with the best winger in the Premier League.
So PK,
win the world.
Just quickly.
Yes.
I know this is a great question. So you're talking about crosses and you're talking about width.
Yeah.
Timicas, no?
We're getting to that.
I'm not here to start a war. All I know is that if I was picking the team, I'd pick on the best 11 right now on form, but that's another story.
We'll get to that.
But I think going back to your question there, Adam, I was just thinking Curtis Jones to come in that role, to be that midfielder that can get forward and connect with the front three, I think is absolute key for this match.
No, it's a good point. It leads me nicely on to talking a little bit about the Liverpool team we expect. So Courtney, perfect place to come for you. Obviously, centre-back partnerships is something that has been rotated recently. Do you think we'll go back to the usual Van Dijk, Matip, or do you think a Konate or a Gomez, probably less so, will keep their position?
Personally, I think it will be Van Dijk, Matip, because I think you've got to have your more experienced players.
Yeah.
Because Tony, the way he plays, he likes to split the 2 centre halves, and he does it really well. So I do think that you need that knowledge up there to play against him. So I think obviously Matip, Van Dijk, best pair in the Prem. So I personally would hope to see them playing, but what Klopp's thinking, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't disagree. I wouldn't disagree with that.
Yeah.
Probably Milner. Milner will probably play centre back.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, to complete the back four, James, I'm coming to you first. So Costas or Robertson, and Trent looks like he's back on the right hand side at least.
Be careful, James.
We're building the 11 slowly.
Look, guys, don't come for me in my mentions. Yeah, I don't come for my mentions. But for me, Costas has got to play. He's got to play. This game is made for Costas. Solely because, and people probably know this, where Brentford vacates space, he can take up that space. Yeah. I feel there's enough in that kind of left channel. Yeah. I feel there's enough in our back four with Virgil van Dijk and Matip to provide Kostas with enough cover to allow him to play in that left channel and actually get forward and do the damage with the crosses. If you play Jota, it's headers season, mate. Do you know what I mean? He loves a headed. He loves a headed goal. He loves a headed goal. The kid gets up like a salmon. For again, I don't know how tall he is. Maybe someone will be able to tell us. I'm not sure exactly how tall he is, but he doesn't look incredibly tall. Yeah, he doesn't look incredibly tall when you see him on the TV or when I've seen him playing at Anfield. He doesn't look incredibly tall. So he's got a leap on him. So I can't see what any again. Even with Trent can get forward and put crosses into the box. So if we're looking at trying to use that as an avenue, you know, Kostas has got to play. And again, and I want to be very clear, this is not a slur on Andy Robertson. Andy Robertson is the best left back in the Premier League, best left back in Europe, potentially the best left back in world football. Let's be very clear. But there is more than one way to skin a cat. And what we have as Liverpool Football Club is options. We now have competition for places. Yeah. And that's all you want. You want sustained competition for places. So if Kostas has got the skill set to come into that team and do the job against Brentford, that's where you want to see him play. You want to see him play in that game. Because ultimately, all that matters to me, and I'm sure you four, is 3 points on the board. We march on.
I mean, even in today's LFC chat, someone that's been on the show, need to get you back on again soon, Dave. But just to kind of round off on that back four, Pete, I'm looking at Porto midweek. I'm thinking that's the Tsimikas game. That's the Canate game. For me, you go back to bread and butter for this one, don't you? Robertson, Matip, Van Dijk, Trent.
Look, I think with to piggyback off James there, I think that their right side, our left side is actually key for this match in general. So whether it's Robbo or Tsimikas, I think because what they do with Sergi Canos, because you know he plays that right wing back role, but in possession they go to like a back four, so their centre back becomes a right back in Aya, who covers the spaces there. So if their centre back is playing right back and Sergi Canos is on an adventure like similar to Matip goes on, it's like, well, we've got to attack that space there. So I look at that area. I look at potentially Curtis Jones, Mane, Tsimikas, or Robbo, and Jota, who helps each other out there. I think that section of the field for us, for sure, has to be spot on, because I think that's how we win the game, down that side there.
Yeah, no, it's fair, and it leads us nicely onto it. We've all mentioned it a little bit, the midfield three. So Courtney, you get first pick on this one. Who's your midfield three tomorrow? I mean, I think two of them pick themselves. I think the third one is definitely up for grabs.
I think three pick themselves because we ain't got no one freaking.
No one else.
This segment could be quick.
Yeah, Fab, Hendo, Jones.
Okay.
That's
not a James Milner in there.
Playing shit at the minute, so he's not an option. Is injured. Like.
Yeah, Elliott's out. Yeah. Thiago's out. I mean, for me, I think James Milner is the obvious choice, but then a Hendo, Milner, Fabinho midfield three sounds very defensive to me.
Very negative.
Boring.
Yeah. So
very negative.
James, would you see a Curtis Jones starting? I mean, he's not started a Premier League game yet, has he? He's barely even come off the bench in the Premier League, really. So it'd be a bit of a surprise.
Off the back of his Norwich performance.
Norwich reserves.
Look, you can only beat what's in front of you. Yeah,
true.
Let's get the lad some flowers. Yeah, you can only beat what's in front of you. So off the back of that performance, which was good, it was accomplished. I still think there's room for improvement, and people know my feelings on Curtis Jones. I don't feel he does the basics good enough, but he's capable of outstanding moments. But that's young players for you. I think this game is probably set for him to start, and then you potentially bring a Milner on once the game's wrapped up, just to see the game out. So you go with Curtis Jones to start, just to give you that little bit of attacking edge, the ability to actually open up Brentford and exploit those spaces on the left-hand side, their right-hand side that we spoke about, because that link-up play between Mane, Tsimikas or Robbo and Curtis Jones could be very, very, very instrumental in breaking Brentford down. I don't think Milner provides enough in that role in terms of forward thinking. So that would put a lot of responsibility on Jordan Henderson, who effectively will be on the opposite side. I just don't think it will work. I think Jones comes in to give us that little bit of edge going forward, and then Milner will come on with maybe 20 to go just to shore it up, see the game out, make sure we're in control of the game.
Okay, I mean, I'm a little bit of a different thought, Pete. I'm going to throw a curveball here. I'm thinking a 4-2-3-1, and Bobby plays the 10. What do you think? We've seen it before.
See that there? What you just that 4-2-3-1 is that George and myself. That's our love child. Is that 4-2-3-1? That's what we.
Football manager go.
Because I mean, my favorite manager, well, obviously besides Klopp, it was Rafa, and he was that 4-2-3-1, and he's the one who got me into coaching, and he's the one who inspired me. So I fell in love with 4-2-3-1 then, and Klopp actually played that at Dortmund, his 4-2-3-1. So I look at Taki, Bobby, specialist in that kind of that freedom role behind, potentially a front three there, and I think why not even Curtis Jones? Curtis Jones has a very creative mindset, and I think people forget he's 20. I think also people forget how good he was last season in that shit fest of a season that it was, but he was one of the brighter sparks when he played towards the back end of the season. And I think what he does is he would potentially relieve the pressure off Trent of always trying to create something, because obviously we always look to Trent to create something because Trent is, again, the best in the world at what he does. But that 4-2-3-1 for me, I know it says the front three get in each other's way. I don't see how. They're on different sides of the field. So like it's something that I think that can definitely work, and I think that I'd love to see throughout the season.
Yeah, I mean, what are your thoughts, Courtney? Because we saw last year, Jota or Firmino tended to be who was fit and available. But when they were both fit and available, Klopp did actually play at both of them together because he was struggling to choose the difference. And we mentioned Milner in that midfield three is probably too defensive. I mean, Curtis Jones might, but I don't see it personally yet. I don't think he's ready to just chuck him in a Premier League game off the back of a midweek match. So does he not just pick the best players available and pick the formation around who he chooses?
I don't know. I feel like a 4-2-3-1 that would be a madness to watch. It would be a good game to watch because it would literally just be overload.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know how they would cope, which is always nice to see.
I'm here for it.
But I don't know. I don't know if I can see him doing that, switching it up that much. I don't know if he's going to throw that much of a curveball at us.
We've seen it though, haven't we? Last season, he dropped it a couple of times. He couldn't seem to choose between Jota or Firmino, so incorporated them all.
Yeah, I mean, he's thrown curveballs where he started Elliott and things like that. A lot of people are saying that they think Gordon's going to be on the bench because he's not playing for the under-23s. So you never know. Honestly, I feel like you just can't even predict it anymore.
It's hard. It's a good thing though, right? Because last season, James, the 11 was the 11 available. That was it, whether there was centre-backs involved or not. But can you see a 4-2-3-1 tomorrow night?
Do you know what? I love 4-2-3-1 also. Like, I adore it. And I saw not last year, the year before, I thought that Klopp would transition to a 4-2-3-1 personally, just based on the trajectory of Firmino and where his career was heading. You started to see his runs were more economical. The press wasn't the same as it was. You didn't see that heavy metal gun-ho football that we were so used to. So I thought Bobby would naturally come into the 10 role and be that creator, that kind of instigator in there. I thought Salah would transition to playing as a 9, but again, there could be freedom of rotation in that as well. Mane could slip into that 9 spot. Salah could drop out, vice versa. But it didn't happen that way. But I think we have the personnel to play that formation. I don't think it's a long-term thing because we know Klopp favours the 4 3-3. That's his favoured formation. And normally what you find is if he's playing all four, so let's say he does go with Bobby, Mane, Salah, Jota, if he goes with all four, it is normally an out-and-out front four. It's normally 4-2-4. Yeah, it is, you know, and one of them might drop in at some times to help defensively in transition. But normally the press is so high that the opponent can't get out because those four pressing together is insane. So I personally, as much as I like the idea of it, I personally can't see it. In this game, it would be very uncharacteristic of Jurgen Klopp to do that, considering that he still has some midfield options available to him in a player like Curtis Jones.
Okay, so I mean, Pete, three clean sheets in 5 games. In the ones they haven't kept a clean sheet, it's only been the one. So if it is a front three, who's missing out? Who are you picking as a front three if it is a Jones sitting there?
Bobby misses out because he's had the least amount of time on the pitch, especially in training. I think Bobby is the one who definitely misses out, but can get minutes v Porto, and I'd actually be starting him against City. So because I think Bobby against City, we've seen he always performs against them. I mean, we talk about Brentford because we got them next, but I definitely start Jota that game without a doubt.
Okay, no, that's fine. I mean, do you see, you know, I mean, we'll get into the score predictions as well. Do you see Jota potentially being the match winner, Courtney? How do you see this game finishing in your prediction? I
think Jota always has the potential to be a match winner.
Yeah.
Because he just comes out with surprises, like James said, like just sticking his head on ball, and you think to yourself, like, how's he won that?
Yeah.
6 foot odd defenders there, and you're thinking, how's he won that in the air?
Got springs in his pads.
Yeah. So yeah, I agree with that. I can see Jota starting, which seems fair, to be honest.
Score prediction?
Score prediction. I'm probably gonna go because I'm hoping for a clean sheet.
Yeah, me too.
I'm hoping they'll be able to handle Tony. So I'm probably gonna go 3-0.
Wow.
Continue that track.
Yeah, I mean, we have been, you know, brushing some from pretty average teams aside with some big score lines. I mean, I think Statman went 3-0 against Palace. I only went 2-1, and he got it right again, didn't he? So he's leaving us in his dust at the minute. James, are you going for a 7-0 with Jericho this week? He normally drops the 7-0 about now.
Yeah, I'm waiting for it. Yeah.
I've actually been conservative and gone 2-0. I don't think we'll concede. I think defensively we'll be too strong for Brentford. So 2-0, and going forward, Liverpool equals goals. It's goals. Yeah, we score goals. We're very creative, but Jota's end product at the moment does worry me a little bit. His end product does worry me.
You've copied Statman, basically. What you've done. You've copied Statman is basically what you've done.
Well, no, I actually gave this prediction on, what was I on? I was on Hussein's Football Talk, and I gave 2-0 way before Statman. So Statman's copied me. Let's be clear. No, I just think Jota's end product worries me at the moment. He's not scoring.
He's got two already in 5 games, which isn't bad at all.
Yeah, how many?
Yeah, he did miss that big chance, didn't he? The last game out.
How many's Mane got?
Is it a couple as well?
2, I think, as well. Yeah.
Yes, I'd be expecting him to outscore Mane playing in the central role.
Okay.
Yeah.
Even though he's not guaranteed as many starts as Mane with Firmino swapping around him.
100%. Like, I'm not being funny. You're playing that
and
central
he's got 3
role.
goals, by the way.
You're playing in that central role. I'd expect more, but it's not just about how many goals he scored. What's his conversion rate like? Here he goes.
Yeah,
what's
true.
What's his conversion rate like? I think personally, I think his conversion rate is probably appalling. Just from what I've seen and opportunities he's had to score. Look at the one he skied. Then, like, you're on the line, mate. Like, all you got to do is get a lace on it and it goes in.
That was poor, but I mean, Mane and Firmino have been just as guilty. I think missing some gilt-edged chances, especially last season.
Salah,
yeah, and Salah as well. Yeah,
of course. So this is why I feel that Daniel Sturridge was a more accomplished finisher. but we won't get into that one.
Oh dear, what was it 80-something%? On it?
We won't get into
that.
that.
Shit, that's funny.
It's just a concern. It's just a concern of mine. But I feel like we create enough chances for him to score anyway.
Okay, so we've got 2 clean sheets, a 3-0 and a 2-0. Pete, are you of the same opinion?
Well, we said 2-0 on the training ground based off what we've seen. So I say 2-0 as well.
Okay, I'm going to go 1-0. I said that in the group chat a couple of days ago. Sadio Mane is going to get the goal for me. So he's already got 3 and 5, which is a really good return based off what we saw last year. You know, he said it was his worst season he'd ever had. So hopefully he's through the worst of it now, because I've been one of his biggest critics.
Yeah, you were right.
I was.
You were saying it's game over.
I mean, what I was saying was that we were putting all our eggs in one basket by not signing another front player. We were relying on what we had to kick on again, because Firmino and Mane, let's not pretend, you know, Firmino for 2 seasons, Mane for 1, have not been anywhere near where they were before. Only really Salah has carried us with the goals. So, you know, we decided not to add another player, and we hoped that, you know, Firmino, Jota and Mane could kind of probably combine to get in and around Salah's numbers as well. So, I mean, Mane's already on 3, Jota's on 2. I think, is his Salah on 3 as well? In and around that.
I think he's on 3 yet.
Yeah. So it's been a good start to the season. But I mean, I look at Brentford's defence, as I say, 3 clean sheets in 5. You know, only really conceded 1 goal when they have conceded. So I see a similar trend. I think it's going to be a real struggle. I think it's going to be limited chances. I don't think it's going to be backs against the walls, but I think we'll have a lot of possession. But I'm going to go for a 1-0 and a Mane goal. But just slightly away from the game, more of a Liverpool updates. Courtney, I'll come to you on this. Thiago injured again. Naby Keita injured again. Are we getting a bit bored of this now?
Always bored of that. Every time, every season, every time. It's literally, you see it on Sky Sport News, and you're just like, fuck off. I don't even read it anymore. I'm just like,
same players again, though, isn't it? It's always these guys, isn't it?
I think it's a bit after the international break that he'll be back as well, isn't it?
Yeah, always 2, 3, 4 week.
I just think
that's November.
Send him on the pitch in bubble wrap.
Is the international break in November?
We've got one in October and one in November as well.
So which one is he talking about?
I think it's the October one. I'm hoping.
Fucking Klopp in his little, cryptic messages.
Literally.
But I agree with Courtney. I'm sick of it. I'm absolutely sick of seeing every week someone going down, and we have to wait 2 or 3, 4+ weeks for them to come back. It's frustrating, because you look at us at the moment, we're flying, absolutely flying, and the last thing we need to be undone by is injuries. And that would be absolutely heartbreaking.
It would, especially after last year, and all the momentum that these players build up. Keita did the old Eric Cantona celebration with his goal, last week. Look how great I am, and I'm thinking, mate, you play once every 6 months. Chill out. So, and now he's kicked a blade of grass and he's injured again. So for me, any momentum that they build up, Thiago's included in that. It all falls down the drain, and they've got to start again. So, James, I've asked you 100 times, but Gini Wijnaldum's looking a little bit of a mistake right now.
I don't think so. My tact on that's changed a little bit. I think a rotation policy is key. I think that Klopp's mindset has now changed in terms of his rotation policy. We're looking at almost like we need a Gini Wijnaldum replacement. The guy which we were chasing. And this is on straight from the horse's mouth knowledge. Saul Niguez is having an absolute stinker in North London. It tells me that Klopp's almost vindicated in his decision when saying that to replace Gini Wijnaldum just wasn't available on the market. It wasn't available.
It's because you can't. That's because there was one player that we should have kept, not replaced.
Well, again, I feel that Gini Wijnaldum, sensational servant to the club. But I do feel that his time at the club may have ran its course solely because of where the direction the club were trying to go in terms of Liverpool 2.0. They're trying to mould Liverpool 2.0. Now, we look at Harvey Elliott, and unfortunately he's injured, but he's been sensational. He's been a revelation. If Gini Wijnaldum unfortunately doesn't depart, Harvey Elliott doesn't have his breakthrough season, and this would have been his breakthrough season. I would have envisaged Harvey Elliott playing probably anywhere to 20 to 30 games for Liverpool Football Club this year. And for a young player, that's a sensational return for a young player. 20 to 30 games is big. So if Ginny doesn't depart, we don't see that from Harvey Elliott. And I think now we're obviously going to, the Ginny references are going to start coming up again, only because we're experiencing a catalyst of injuries, which unfortunately started with a young player. I think with Thiago, and again, I think with Keita, there is a lot to be said for the way that the club now handles injuries. Last year, we brought in our new head of sports science or whatever, not so on and so forth. His ethos is that players, if they've had an injury, they need sustained recovery period in terms of building them back up, ready for games. So we're talking about not being back before the international break. That injury may only be a 2-week layoff, 3-week layoff, but he won't let them play. He's like, no, they need to build up. Do you see what I'm saying? To be at the level to then come back into competition in the Premier League. And I see it, understand it. Whereas a lot of other clubs, we think about Naby Keita's kicked the ground. He's probably got bruising around his toe. He's got some sustained bruising. You could a lot of players would play through that. A lot of players would play through it. Just wrap it, strap it, get back out on the pitch. It just doesn't seem the mold that Liverpool are using. And I think Klopp initially had some teething problems and some frustrations with it, because you could see he was visibly frustrated with that system. And he spoke about it a little bit in his pressers last year. But it's just how it is. We're going to have to suck it up. But we've got players there. We've got Curtis Jones. We've got Millie. We've got Hendo. We've got Fab. You know, there's players there that can come in. Those guys now need to come in and show their worth. We talk about availability being the best ability. It's now time for them to show that ability and be available.
I agree. I mean, Pete, obviously the Reds have got no money, but they'll still win the league is the current chant. But, there's a really good comment here from Ryan Mental. And, he mentions that, we let Lovren go. We didn't replace him. We've let Wijnaldum go. We didn't replace him. And for me, we kept Karius a season too long. Alisson should have come in before. And then we ended up having Alberto Moreno as a left back. And when the window closed, we realised James Milner was a better option. So are we not learning from this? That's 4 examples where we've not signed a replacement until a year later and we've gone, oh, actually, we probably should have done.
I think we've trusted the current midfielders too much, knowing that their injury record is quite poor. Like I said, between Hendo, Fab, Ox, we forgot about him, Keita, like they all missed their fair share of games, and I wrote that in our chat. I think the problem with Wijnaldum was not so much letting him go, was not bringing someone that can play 50 games a year. Now, in terms of keeping possession, I think, because obviously Wijnaldum's biggest strength for me was his just ability to keep the ball in any situation. Yeah, I think Curtis Jones kind of has that ability about himself. He kind of, like you saw against Norwich, he was getting pressed by 3 or 4 players at that one moment and just rolls out, keeps it. So I think Curtis is that kind of, don't forget, 20 years old. I mean, we spoke about Harvey having his breakthrough year at 18. I think, why can't this be Curtis's at 20? Yeah. So I think that he kind of can do that, keep possession role. The problem for me is not having a player that we know can play 30 to 50 games a year in midfield. I think that is a problem in itself.
No, I would agree with that. I mean, Courtney, in terms of the midfielders, half of the midfielders that we've got have got their injury problems. But I think obviously Elliott has picked up a horrible injury, which hopefully will be a one-off. But out of Jones and Elliott, who do you see having a bigger Liverpool career out of those two?
That's tough. That's tough. You're a prick.
I'm dropping it in. I'm going for it tonight.
Listen, think before you speak. The timeline is watching.
And why?
And either way, you're wrong.
The game of opinions.
You can say anything.
Be wrong.
You can say anything now and you're going to be wrong.
Or a career as a whole.
Liverpool career. Who has the biggest, at the end of their careers, who's had the biggest game at Liverpool? Who's had the biggest impact at LFC?
He goes again.
Who do you see having the best career for Liverpool out of those two?
I think
the gents want to get involved in this too.
I was going to say, guys in the comments, Guys in the comments,
Let's
get
know.
involved.
This can be the poll
Like,
later
if
on.
you've got the backing of the fans and you feel loved, I feel like that adds to it as well.
Yeah.
So I'd probably
Hold on.
Yeah, cool.
I'd probably go Harvey Elliott.
Okay.
I feel like he potentially, I feel like the fans just love him. The way that you see him on the pitch, even after the game, once the final whistle's gone, he's the last one out. And I just think, yeah, you did.
I had to spice it up a bit.
Yeah. But if it was like gun to my head, that's probably what I'd say.
Okay. Go on, James. I know you're chomping at the bit to get involved with that one.
Nah, listen, I'm quite enjoying my social media career at the moment. The Liverpool fan base actually like me, so I don't want to do anything to necessarily jeopardize that. To be fair, no, look, let's be very clear. Curtis Jones is a local lad. You'll never feel supporting one of your own. And I feel Curtis Jones, in terms of that, would trump it for me. But if we're looking at it from an outside perspective, and looking at their careers up until now, Harvey Elliott's made a big impact. He's made a very, very big impact in terms of when he's come into the club and what he's done. I feel the transfer from Fulham put him on the map, because it was one of the first that have gone to tribunal, and that was argued out for a whole year. He then comes in, plays a little bit part role, then goes out on loan to Blackburn and absolutely smashes it in the Championship. He was insane in the Championship. And I feel that Curtis Jones probably would have benefited from a similar kind of loan, going out to a Championship team and actually making a difference in a Championship team and announcing himself. I think we kind of saw where Curtis Jones was at in his career, and how he was regarded when he was snubbed in the World Cup squad, or was it European Championship for the 2023s or 21s, whatever it was. They were playing Ben Davies from Everton over him.
Tom Davies
from Everton over him. That kind of showed where he was at, and players like Oliver Skip or whoever not getting in ahead of him when they can't even lace his boots. But that just kind of made, like, highlighted and compounded that I just feel he needs to work harder. He's got that glitz, he's got that class. Like, you see some of the finishes that he puts together in training. If you watch the training videos, he's got that swagger about him. But like, hard work wins every time. You can be the most talented player, but hard work wins every single time. So I just want more work rate from him in order to turn around and say, do you know what? Yeah, you're up there.
Okay, so it's 1-1. Pete, we've got a good comment here. Elliot is a Southern Scouser, so we've seen the tattoo, we've seen how much he supports Liverpool. Elliot, he is a Southern Scouser. So are we just going purely on geographical location of being born, or is there more of a discussion between these two?
Well, if that's the case, then I shouldn't be going for Liverpool. So,
exactly. You're a Southern Hemisphere Scouser.
So that, we see that on Twitter a lot, by the way. Oh, you haven't been to a game, you don't know. You live there.
Then people annoy me so much.
Anyway,
honestly.
Yeah, I just feel like that's another topic. Anyway, discussing Twitter fuckwits. That could be the next topic. No, but I think between the two, I think Elliott's ceiling is higher because he has a bit more in his bag. I just think, why can't we both have like a Gerrard and Carragher kind of career together? Because imagine that in 5 years' time, where a midfield three has Elliott and Jones. So I think, and in 5 years' time, it looks realistic. If you're basing it off, Jones will be 25, Elliott will be 23, something like that there. So why not? I think for me, Jones pulls my heartstrings a bit more because he was a academy product from a young age, and he was at the club all the way through. And that's something, because that's my line of work. I think I'm leaning towards Jones because of that, just purely because of that, not because I like him more. I think Elliott's ceiling is higher. I just, like I said, my heartstrings are pulled towards Jones, and I think I've got a Jones jersey on its way, by the way. So I've ordered that. That's
Nice.
That should be in a couple of weeks. But I just, like I said, he's got number 17 on his back. We all know whose number that was when he before he became the god himself. So I think he wants to follow that kind of path of Stevie G. And I think another reason why that's pulling me towards Jones more than Elliott, I guess. So I hope for both of them have a long, successful career at Liverpool. But if I had to pick one with a gun to my head, I'm going to say Jones because I just said why.
Fair enough.
Just quickly, this comment is fantastic. Curtis James was invaluable for us last year, so the idea of him going out on loan was not sound. I'm not saying necessarily last year him going out on loan. Curtis Jones has been around the first team for some time now. Last year he was around the first team the year before that. I think he probably could have benefited from a loan in the back end of last year because he came in the year before. He came in, done a few bits, and he disappeared back into the 23s again. You know, if you're good enough, you're old.
Yeah,
he's
missed the loan boat, isn't he? Definitely.
Yeah, if you're good enough, you're old enough. So he's kind of missed that opportunity now, and maybe we would have been seeing a more accomplished player, him coming back into the fold, because there's no doubt that loan for Harvey Elliott has done absolute wonders.
It was the making of him, wasn't it?
Yeah, the confidence, like just the sheer arrogancy on the kid to strut into Liverpool first team, start the first game, the opening game of the home team, and absolutely boss it. He bossed it, absolutely bossed it. Took everything in his stride. That's the kind of effect that a loan deal has for a young player. He went into Blackburn, and Tony Mowbray talks about him like he's his son. Like he couldn't give more plaudits and more compliments to a player. Even when he got injured, Tony Mowbray went to the hospital. Sent a message to the hospital and said, look, get through it on Instagram, so on and so forth. The kids loved at Blackburn. I would have wanted that for Curtis Jones, because there's something to be said for having those players. And on the number 8 factor, Jude Bellingham says come outside.
No, we've not got the money for him. I mean, 3 years time. Could we see Fabinho, Elliott, Jones midfield? That'd be pretty special, wouldn't it? Once the other ones have kind of gone over the hill, that's a pretty sexy midfield 3, in my opinion.
Oh, yeah, very sexy.
Do some bits. But unless anyone's got anything else to offer, that's pretty much the Brentford preview. Obviously, we've got Red Sea full time tomorrow. I can't make it, so James, I'm sure you'll be finding a more than capable replacement for me over on LFC Day Trippers, guys. So if you've not seen us on there, go and give them a subscribe. Every post-match reaction is me and usually me and James giving you instant raw reaction to the game. It's been pretty good so far, apart from the Chelsea game where we were a little bit disappointed. But other than that, it's all been pretty good. Obviously, we've got the Porto Fab 4. That's going to be on Monday night to preview the Champions League game next. So we'll see who's about for that one. Obviously, again, Red Sea full time straight after that, and then it's into the big one, which Pete touched on earlier. Liverpool Man City next weekend at Anfield, 4:30 on the Sunday. So that's going to be a very tasty one. Could they be potentially 6 or 9 points behind by this time next weekend? Who knows? So we'll know a little bit more about it. Title contenders. It's going to be big for sure. But anything else, guys, to add before we close?
Yeah, who's going to win, Chelsea or City?
Ooh.
And more importantly, how do you want the match to go? So what do you think? And what do you think is the best result for us?
That's a good question.
Chelsea win.
It's at Stamford Bridge, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. I'll go draw, and that probably helps us the best too.
Yeah, I'd probably say draw as well. Both drop points.
I think Chelsea win it to keep pace with us. I also think we beat City as well. So I think nice. by the end of next weekend, City are going to be in a bit of pain. They're going to be a bit of trouble. It then comes down to trying to then dispatch Manchester United out of the title race. Yeah, because I reckon that they'll be the next to fall by the wayside, and then straight shootout between us and Chelsea. Like, do you know? Like, I've never wanted to beat a fan base so much. Like I hate Chelsea fans with like a huge passion, and that's not individuals, because there's some great guys I talk to that are Chelsea fans. Shout out CFCJ. Shout out Monster, guys like that. Even my brother's a Chelsea fan. Fantastic individuals. But when they put that Chelsea shirt on, I hate them. Yeah. They are so arrogant. Oh, champions of Europe, this and that. We've got 6. We have 6. Yeah,
we do use it a tad though, don't we? When we're on, when we've just won it. So fair play.
No credit. No credit. We do this all of the time, not some of the time. We're seasoned Champions League campaigners. Yeah. No credit.
Yeah, without a drug dealer owning us too, by the way.
Exactly. We did listen. And on that bombshell, we do it with no money as well. Beat that.
I mean, there's a definitely good one to end here because this is very relevant. Could we see the debut of the yellow kit this weekend? Obviously, red and white stripes for Brentford. I think we are, aren't we?
See, this is what shits me about our away kit. I think our away kit itself is the sexiest jersey we've had in God knows how long. But it's this stupid fucking colour short thing. Why not have the whole kit the same color as the top, and then we can wear that this weekend? I don't know who decided to put green shorts on. Fuck.
I think we're seeing this. I think we're going to see the McDonald's uniform, which is Courtney's favourite shirt, I think, for a while.
Shit shirt.
The McDonald's are out in town.
Everyone loves a shit shirt, man.
I think it could be the debut, couldn't it?
I think they will wear it.
I think so as well. I think they have to.
We've seen Jurgen Klopp's team in a bright shirt, haven't we? We do some damage in that bright orange kit and all that kind of stuff that we've worn.
Yeah, very true.
Yeah, that orange one's my boys, both of them. That's one of their favourite shirts. I was talking about this last night. It's one of their favourite shirts. And it just brings back Porto dismantling vibe. That's what that does. Yeah. Every time I see that shirt, it just reminds me of Bobby just absolutely annihilating Porto because he destroyed them.
Hopefully, we'll have a similar result this weekend. But that's been the Fab Four, guys. I've been the Southern Scouser. Thanks to Thiago's father, Courtney, and Peter for joining us, especially Peter from the other side of the world, getting up nice and early. So we do appreciate it. And happy birthday again to Statman as well. So, guys, we'll see you on Monday night as the Fab Four next time. And there'll be plenty of Red Sea Down Under action coming your way as well. But thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.